If I told you that one day you might not be able to use the products that you love? It's a scary thought, right? But that is the reality for billions of people across the world that live within a world that they find to be inaccessible. My name is Rob, and I'm an inclusive design expert and human factors consultant. And in the next 18 minutes, I'm going to prove to you why inclusive design is not just about disability. It's about you and the future of humanity. But for me to do that, I need to take you back to when I was at school. And when I was at school, I was a pretty weird kid. I came up with some pretty odd questions. The normal ones, of course, of why do I have to do homework? How do I get a girlfriend at an all-boys school? And probably the most interesting question of all, where did babies come from? But there was one question that lingered in my head throughout the entirety of my childhood, but I would never dare ask it. And that question was this: what would happen if I broke my leg? Now, I can see I'm losing some of you here, but stick with me on this. Let's be real. If you met somebody at school who had broken their leg or they'd broken their arm, they instantly became the most popular kid at school. They get people coming up to them saying, "Oh, you poor thing, can I sign your cast?" It used to annoy the hell out of me because I wanted to feel popular. I wanted to know what it was like to be somebody in that scenario. And in 2019, I got my answer. So let me take you back to the summer of 2019. I was ready to have the best summer of my life, to go traveling with my mates, to play as much cricket as possible, and to just have the best summer of my lifetime. And one day, I decided to go on a date with my girlfriend at the time. And we decided to go to the park, to a notorious contraption I'm sure you're all familiar with, known as a swinging basket. We decided to lay in this swinging basket as the afternoon drifted on, and eventually realized, as I was getting very sunburnt, that we probably should start setting off home. So we got out of the swinging basket and started walking down the main park path. But as I was walking along, entirely out of nowhere, a stabbing pain hit me in my groin region. I had no idea where this pain had come from, but it was so debilitating, I thought I was going to faint on the spot. Eventually, I hobbled home to where my mum saw the state that I was in and instantly took me to the GPs. From the GPs, I was sent with a letter to A&E, where after numerous examinations, I was told I would have to stay overnight. The next morning, I was whisked away from my ward bed to go and have an ultrasound scan on my groin, eventually brought back. And I can remember it like it was yesterday. A scene played out in front of me like that of a TV medical drama, as 3 doctors came marching down the central part of the ward, came to my bedside, shut the curtain, with one doctor standing beside me. And I will never forget the words that doctor said to me. He said, "Rob, we have found that you have 2 lumps in your left testy, and we believe them to be cancerous." In that moment, my entire world turned upside down. I went from being such a free 18-year-old to being locked into doctor's appointments, having to go through surgery to remove my left testy, having to then soldier on through chemotherapy and feeling the most anxious and depressed I have ever felt in my lifetime. I felt as though I couldn't tell people how I was feeling. I felt excluded and misunderstood by healthcare systems and educational systems. I felt that I couldn't use products or do things the way I used to do them anymore. For the first time in my life, I truly felt like I was excluded by society. But funnily enough, this wasn't for the first time. Growing up as a young neurodiverse kid, living with dyspraxia, education in particular was really tough for me. Even when I was at school, I didn't actually believe that I had a disability. I just simply thought I was one of those kids that wasn't very smart. I'd struggle to understand simple instructions. I'd struggle to follow simple instructions. I'd struggle to do physical things like chopping an onion because of my weak wrists. I felt excluded by the products and the experiences that I would go through until one day I realized I am not alone. In fact, I am part of a community that is over 1.3 billion people across the globe living with a disability. That's 1 in 6 people, with 80% of those disabilities being non-visible. In the UK alone, we have over 16.1 million people that identify as being disabled, which means in this room tonight, around 12 to 25 people watching this talk will have some form of a disability. But more important than all of those statistics combined is a statistic that I truly hope you take away with you today to understand the essence of the message of this talk. And that stat is this: an estimated 83% of people acquired their disability later on in life. That means somebody in your family could acquire a disability. One of your friends could acquire a disability. Even you listening here today could acquire a disability in your lifetime. And when you become excluded from society, it means that you cannot live life the way you used to anymore. Now, people always rebuke this. They always say, "But Rob, it can't possibly impact me. How could this affect me at all?" But the truth is, one way or another, it will impact you. And I can prove it. We are living within a world where our global population is becoming more diverse year on year. And it is estimated that by 2050, over 3.5 billion people will need one or more assistive products in their lifetime. We are also living within an aging population. It is expected that by 2050, 1 in 6 people will be over the age of 65. With aging, this increases your chances of acquiring certain disabilities that may be related to vision, mobility, hearing, cognition, and chronic illness. Long-term conditions and chronic illnesses are also set to increase. It's expected that by 2030, here in the UK, long-term conditions like arthritis and cancer are set to double. This simply paints a picture of the world that we are heading towards. And if you bring in stuff like the climate crisis and the advancement of AI, it can all seem very, very, very scary. But do not worry, because I have hope, and I truly believe that there is a solution. A simple process known as inclusive design. But what actually is inclusive design all about? Inclusive design is not about just designing for those with disabilities. It's about designing with those people who are normally excluded from the product development process. And the funny thing is, this process has created numerous inclusive innovations, so much so I can guarantee that you have probably used one today and not even realized it. Let me prove it to you. Firstly, with the humble curb cut, a simple innovation that was fought for by American disabled activists back in the 1970s, has now been implemented globally across the world in street architecture. Another simple solution is that of audiobooks. Audiobooks were originally created to empower those with visual impairments, to have access to literature, but now is a global market worth over $8.71 billion globally. And lastly, a product you hopefully all use this morning is that of the humble electric toothbrush. The electric toothbrush was commercialized back in the 1950s to empower those with dexterity impairments, such as arthritis, but now is backed by Brits, as 67% of the British population prove that they want to go with an electric toothbrush over a manual one. This just shows that inclusive innovation is all around us. And for humanity to prosper, we must implement inclusion as a first principle. But I can hear the thoughts going on in your head. How do we do this? How do we practically do this as a society to create a truly inclusive world for all? I have compiled my own lived experiences and the lived experiences of hundreds of others who I've worked with through social enterprise escapades, through running my own inclusive design consultancy, through creating inclusive innovations at the likes of Unilever, and winning national and international design awards for my inclusive design work. I have formulated a 3-step framework that we can all utilize to truly adopt inclusive design into our world. And that framework is this. Firstly, we must educate. Secondly, we must test. And thirdly, we must co-create. Firstly, with education, it's all about looking to those outside of your echo chamber, engaging with diverse perspectives to truly understand what is their real world view. Secondly, like any good engineer or scientist, we have to test. We have to understand, with your product or system, who is being excluded. And more importantly, why is that person being excluded? And lastly, the most beautiful part of inclusive design is that of co-creation. When we look to co-create with those real individuals who are normally marginalized, we can truly create the greatest innovations that the world has ever seen. I truly believe that this process cannot be summed up better than by thousands of disabled activists' words from across the world. And that statement they use is this: it's nothing about us without us. Let me say that again. It's nothing about us without us. If inclusive design had been implemented within sustainable solutions like the creation of the paper straw, there would have been greater understanding that for many individuals with varying disabilities, they require the rigidity and the flexibility that plastic straws offer them, and that the soggy nature and the collapsing nature of paper straws could have been mitigated. In there lies an opportunity to create an inclusive, sustainable solution. And even as we head deeper and deeper into the development of AI, we must look to be inclusive. It has already been shown that due to biased data sets, that those with disabilities, when portrayed in visual image generation, are shown to be aspirational or hero shot-like, and not realistic to the prompt that the person has inputted. But I have already seen, through my own work of utilizing AI to build inclusive design tools for design teams, if we use AI inclusively to include those from social minorities, we can look to create the most brilliant physical and digital accessible solutions that the world has ever seen. Now, I've thrown a lot at you today, but let's bring this back to you. Why does this matter to you? And why does this matter today? We live in a world that is facing unprecedented climate challenges and the fast development and rise of AI. But so few people take great action against it. This is known in psychology as normalcy bias, where we as humans tend to not deal with a problem until it is on our doorstep. In so many ways, normalcy bias shows us that we do not truly understand who we are excluding until we become that person. In so many ways, we as humanity might not realize that we are destroying the world until it is too late. So take this chance today to stand up and fight for a world that is inclusive for yourself and for others. And if you won't do that, then do it for that young boy Rob. A boy who couldn't speak properly until the age of 5, who was told that he would fail all of his GCSEs, but now stands here speaking in front of you today with a first-class honours degree and national and international design awards to his name. And if not for him, then do it for that young teenage boy Rob. A boy who felt so much pain, so much loss, and so much exclusion, but now is fighting to create a better world through inclusive design and is supporting social causes through his ultramarathon escapades. Because at the end of the day, there are so many billions of people out there who are just like me and want to feel included. You can be the catalyst for this change. You can be the person to stand up and fight for inclusion. You can truly be the people to change the world, to make it inclusive by design. Thank you.